Mr. Buchanan, if you're not feeling well, I know this is not easy for you. We can take a break.
No, please. Please continue. I do not want to delay this trial, not even for 1 minute.
Mrs. Buchanan, while your father was at his estate, land fair, recovering, Nurse Crawford was hired. Is that correct?
Yes, she was, but Dorian made it very clear that Nurse Crawford answered to her and to her alone.
Did you spend much time with your father when he was recuperating?
No. Dorian didn't allow anyone in to see him.
Why?
His condition was too fragile, she said.
Too fragile even for his own daughter to visit?
Or his son. And as a result, they were never reconciled.
Mrs. Buchanan, at that time your father wasn't able to speak. Is this correct?
That is correct. He was not able to speak. He was not able to tell anyone what he wanted. So Dorian went ahead and made all the decisions for him.
But what if he wanted to reconcile with his son? What if he'd wanted to change his will?
Oh, objection.
Sustained. Avoid speculation, Mr. Gannon.
Mr. Buchanan, there was a time when you were able to get into your father's room to visit, wasn't there?
I saw him, but he was very weak.
And did he say anything to you at all?
Mm-hmm. He whispered one word to me. He said, lawyer.
Lawyer? And what did you take that to mean?
Well, I assumed that he wanted to see his lawyer, so I went and got him. And by the time we got back, though, he wasn't able to speak at all, and then Dorian came in and demanded that the lawyer leave.
And in less than an hour of this encounter, your father had suffered a second stroke, didn't he, Mrs. Buchanan?
Yes, he did. And then he went into a coma again, and then he was taken to Landview Hospital.
Were you able to visit him while he was in the hospital?
Just once.
And did he say anything to you at this time?
Mm-hmm. Again, he said one word. He said, Dorian. Of course, I now realize what he was so desperately trying to tell me, that she had tried to kill him and was probably going to try it again.
Order in the court. Order. Objection is sustained. Mrs. Buchanan, try not to give what you think are other people's opinions. Just speak to the facts, and only when asked. Proceed, Mr. Gannon.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions. Your witness?
Viki, I don't want there to be any misunderstandings. Even though this case was assigned to me, I am going to do my best for Dorian, and that will put us on opposite sides. I'm going to have to do things, to say things. You may wind up being very unhappy, and very unhappy with me.
Well, I am aware of that. I know that you have to do your best.
Well, Mrs. Buchanan, I'm afraid I have a lot of questions for you, because your testimony has raised what I call serious inconsistencies. Mrs. Buchanan, a few minutes ago you told this court that you now knew, when your father uttered that one word, Dorian, that he was trying to tell you that Dorian was trying to kill him.
In my opinion, yes.
Well, laying aside the fact that you'd have to be a mind reader to know that, I would like you to tell the court what it was you thought he meant at that time. Mrs. Buchanan, when your father said Dorian, what was it that you thought he meant?
Well, at the time, I thought that he wanted me to befriend her.
I see.
But that was because our butler, Chapin, had just previously brought me a letter from my father in which he had asked me to reach out to his wife. Of course, the letter was written before he
Well,
had the
thank you
stroke.
very much, Mrs. Buchanan. Please just answer the questions. Don't volunteer, all right? So, indeed, you did reach out to your stepmother until what? Until you had a quarrel, a spat?
No. My brother Tony came to me and told me that he thought Dorian had murdered Father.
He did? Tony said that? My goodness, Mrs. Buchanan. Oh, and at that time, what did you think? Mrs. Buchanan.
I didn't believe him.
My. So 18 years ago, you did not believe that Dorian Lord had murdered her husband?
No, because I could not conceive of anyone being that cruel or that evil.
Why don't we talk about this half-brother of yours, Tony, the one who made the horrible accusation that you didn't believe? He was very bitter, wasn't he?
Bitter? No. He simply
Because
stated
if he
that
had been declared as Victor Lord's son, he would have stood to inherit a great deal of money, wouldn't he have?
Objection, speculative.
She speculated on it during direct. She can speculate it on it during cross.
Miss Gannon, when I need your help, I'll ask for it. Overruled.
Thank you. Oh, what the heck. Let's forget Tony's inheritance, since he obviously had to. Let's talk about your inheritance, Mrs. Buchanan. You inherited a major share of your father's estate, didn't you?
Yes.
And Dorian Lord received a large portion, as well as the right to live in your father's estate, now known as Landfair.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. You live at Landfair, don't you?
Yes.
And how did you come to live there?
Well, Dorian gave up her right.
She gave
to
up
live
her
in the
right, or
house.
you took her right from her? I mean, as a matter of fact, there was one heck of a battle over Landfair, wasn't there? You went in with your guns blazing, you kicked her out and made sure she stayed there, didn't you, Mrs.
No,
Buchanan?
my father's will very, very specifically
Yes,
stated
I know, we all understand, Mrs. Buchanan, it's okay. You won. You felt you deserved it, and you got it, because you're your father's daughter and you've always gotten what you want, haven't you?
No, of course not.
He loved you more than he loved your stepmother. You knew that in your heart, and so you fought her for your rights. And from that battle over Landfair until this very day, you and Dorian Lord have been arch rivals, haven't you? Because you never, ever have forgiven her.